At 4:58 in the morning, while the entire city was still wrapped in sleep, one man was already awake. No alarm had called him. No job was waiting. He simply opened his eyes in the dark and stared at the ceiling above him. His name was Daniel, and by every single measure the world cares about, he was a failure. He had no money in the bank, no title on any door, and no one, anywhere, who expected anything of him at all. He lived in a single rented room at the end of a long, narrow hallway. The paint was peeling from the walls. The radiator rattled all night long, and the window never quite closed, no matter how hard he pushed against it. On the coldest nights, the wind would find that little gap and slip inside, and it would wake him long before the morning came. He would lie there, pulling the thin blanket tighter, listening to a city that had already forgotten he existed. He was 34 years old, and somewhere along the way, without ever once deciding to, he had begun to believe that this was simply how his story would end. Quietly, unremarkably, exactly like this. But one night, lying there alone in the dark, something deep inside him quietly broke. Not with a bang, not with tears, the way a rope finally gives after it has been pulled for far, far too long. He was tired. Not the kind of tired that a good night's sleep can ever fix. He was tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of a life that kept promising to begin and somehow never did. And so, staring up at that cracked ceiling, he made himself a promise. It was not a grand promise. Not to get rich. Not to change the world. Just one small thing that belonged entirely to him. "I will wake up at 5 a.m., he whispered into the dark. "Every single day. No matter what. No matter how I feel. No matter what happens to me. 5 a.m. The first morning was absolutely brutal. The room was freezing cold, and every part of his body begged him to stay beneath the warm blankets just a little while longer. And a voice in his head whispered, "What is the point? You are still poor. Nothing about today will be any different." But Daniel sat up anyway. He swung his legs over the side of the bed. He placed his bare feet on the freezing wooden floor. He stood up, and he began. While the rest of the world slept on, he read. He studied. He taught himself, slowly and patiently, the small and quiet skills that no one had ever once thought to pay him for. It was 1 hour, one single hour of silence, before the noise and the worry of the day could ever reach him. 1 hour that belonged to no one else in the entire world but himself. When the people around him found out, they laughed. 5 in the morning. For what? You are still broke. Daniel, you are wasting your sleep on absolutely nothing. He never argued with a single one of them. He never even tried to explain. He simply went home, set his alarm, and woke up again the very next morning. And the morning after that, and the one after that. Day 30 came, and nothing had changed. Day 60 arrived, and still nothing. The same small room, the same empty bank account, the same rattling radiator, and the same cold wind through the same broken window. His friends slowly stopped asking him about it. And if he was being truly honest with himself, on some of those dark and silent mornings, even he began to wonder whether they had been right all along. But here is the secret that no one ever tells you about discipline. It does not pay you when you want it to. It does not reward you on your schedule or on your terms. It waits. And then one day, when you are least expecting it, it pays you everything, all at once. For every quiet morning, for every lonely hour, for everything you did back when absolutely no one was watching. On a quiet morning in his 4th month, Daniel used something he had taught himself in those lonely hours to solve a small problem for a complete stranger. It cost him nothing at all. He simply offered, quietly, to help. That stranger told a friend, and that friend offered him work. Real work. The kind of work that finally, after all of those years, respected him and respected what he was capable of. And suddenly, all of those mornings, all of those lonely, freezing 5 o'clock mornings were no longer lonely at all. They had quietly become the foundation that everything else in his life would be built upon. A year later, Daniel sat in an office that was entirely his own. The window behind him closed perfectly now. The radiator was finally silent. And the cold, after all this time, was gone. But he still woke at 5 a.m. Not because he had to anymore. Not because anyone in the world was forcing him to, but because that single, quiet hour had given him his entire life back, and he would never, ever hand it away again. So if you are sitting there right now, waiting for some great moment to arrive and change everything for you, please, I am begging you, stop waiting. Change does not begin with money. It does not begin with luck. And it certainly does not begin with permission from the people who doubt you. It begins with one small promise, kept quietly. On a cold morning, when every single part of you is begging you to stay in that warm and comfortable bed. Because the secret was never really about 5 a.m. at all. It was about becoming the kind of person who keeps a promise to himself, even when it is hard, even when no one claps, even when no one is watching, especially then. So wake up, before the world does, and give yourself the 1 hour that no one can ever take away from you. Because that, my friend, that is the thing that changes absolutely everything.